Good afternoon, friends. It's indeed my proud privilege as President of CAHO and Vijay Agarwal to welcome you all to this, I would say, a very unique and a very important webinar that we are hosting today. You understand that the DNA of CAHO is only to promote patient safety and quality. And of late, you see different aspects of patient safety keep on cropping up for us. So COVID has definitely shown us that how the use of PPE and uh, various other protective things in terms of the number of fabrics that we use, how they become important. But not only that, what quality of material that they are being made of, but how are they being processed? And similarly, the issue of the biomedical equipments, how are they being maintained in an organization is of huge importance. And in that light, therefore, this two things that have come up today for a discussion in this webinar. One, we are calling as a HEALTEXPROF, that is a healthcare textile processing facility certification, and also similarly for the biomedical equipment maintenance certification, that will be BEMC. So to talk about about the importance of such certification, how it can lead to a great amount of safety and comfort, I will say, for the healthcare people is of huge importance. And to talk about it, we have a very illustrious speaker today in the form of Mr. Karthik Raj V. Karthik Raj ji has been uh, has his ME in medical electronics as well as a BTech in the biomedical engineering from Anna University and Calicut University, respectively. He has been, I would say, a hugely experienced person. His biodata, I think, will share with you much more than I will like to read about it, because I think his talk is going to do the introduction for him. So I will now like to hand over, and we have amongst us Mr. Anil Jauhri and Mr. Mrutunjay Jena, whose presence I must acknowledge and must thank for making this even a much greater program. So over to you, Mr. Karthik Raj.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the introduction. So we'll start the session. So the first speaker is, I hope everyone can hear me. Am I audible? Yeah.
Yes.
So the first speaker is Mr. M. Jena, sir. So he is the Scientist G, Head, Department of Quality and Regulatory Affairs, Andhra Pradesh MedTech Zone. Jena, sir, is having over 29 years of experience in quality assurance with industry and national and international accreditation and certification system. He is the chair of certification committee of BME scheme as well as HEALTEXPROF scheme. Presently, he is servicing as director to board of directors of International Accreditation Forum, and also chair of user advisory committee of IAF representing industries, and member to executive committee of IAF. In the past, headed the organization of NABCB as director, including business development, accreditation scheme development, and resource management activities. He is having in-depth knowledge in conformity assessment schemes. So today he will be giving an idea about overview of both the schemes, that is BME scheme as well as HEALTEXPROF scheme. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Karthik, and good afternoon to everybody. And special thanks to CAHO for supporting us in this journey of communicating, informing what is the present market demand in the patient safety. So regarding patient safety, so everybody knows that there is a huge demand of biomedical equipment, because any treatment of any disease, it starts from the diagnosis. So if the diagnosis is not perfect, then treatment of this disease is next to impossible. So that proper diagnosis again depends on the equipment used for that. So if the equipment is not wrong, it is not correct, or not giving the right information or the data or the measurement, then treatment of any patient is next to impossible. So overall, whatever the equipment being used in the treatment of any patient, the biomedical equipments are to be kept in proper maintenance of whenever it will be required, it can be used and can give the right information, right measurement, right data. Again, at the same time, so the hospitals are using a lot of healthcare, I mean, it's a textiles, which is generally called as the medical textiles. So starting from the mask to the surgical gowns, drapes, sterilization, wraps, lot of textiles are being used in the medical devices. So some of the medical, I mean, some of the textiles that are multi-use, and some are the single use and use and throw type. So we are talking about whenever there is a multi-use of healthcare textiles, the medical textiles, that has to be properly cleaned so that there is no transmission of the microbials from the one to another patient to the doctors or the nurses or the healthcare providers. So that should not be. So AMTZ and AHPI and IMED, the three associations. AMTZ is the Andhra Pradesh Medical Manufacturing Zone, which has about 134 medical devices manufacturers, and this is the first in the country to have a medical device industrial park. So then AHPI, again the association of the hospital, they are also part of this, and also medical device manufacturers, medical devices industrial industries. So these three major stakeholders of the country, they decided to have a scheme on the biomedical equipment maintenance, how to maintain properly, and that has to be certified. And the second one is the medical textile multi-use healthcare textile processing certification. So these two schemes, they are process driven. The process certification, which falls again into the ISO International Standard Certificate Organization for Standardization. That means these schemes are based on international standards, so accepted globally. So our aim is to, whatever the scheme will develop for the medical fraternity, so that should be accepted globally. So this scheme, once it is certified to a hospital for medical biomedical equipment maintenance, that can be accepted any part of the world. Similarly for the second scheme also. So so these three associations, like under AMTZ, AHPI, Association of the Healthcare Providers in India, then IMED, they decided to have this. And also, as I mentioned you, this is based on the 17065, which is ISO standards, which talks about the process certification. And also, IAF International Accreditation Forum has a mandatory documents which the scheme should be based on that. That is IFMD 25. So any scheme which wants to be globally accepted, that should be follow this IFMD 25 requirements. There, the criteria is mentioned how the scheme has to be developed with the support of the multi-stakeholder involvement, and it should be internationally acceptable. So some of the norms are being used in the IFMD 25, and the same requirements we have followed while developing these two schemes. So this first scheme, that is biomedical equipment maintenance certification scheme, this is the purpose of the scheme is to, and one thing I would like to mention here, all these schemes, these two schemes I am talking about, these are all in voluntary in nature. So it's not mandatory. So if the hospital wants to improve on the maintenance of their equipment or the safety of their patients and the doctors and others, so they have to, they should follow this voluntary certification scheme, which is acceptable globally. The main purpose of this biomedical equipment maintenance scheme is to determine the efficacy of maintenance of medical equipment functions after it is installations or servicing, and repair are done by the organization in accordance with the applicable standards. What are the applicable standards they are following? That should be based on that, and regulatory requirements, and sometimes the manufacturer's requirement. If the manufacturer has provided some guidelines for the maintenance of CT scan or MRI machine, that has to also be followed. And second scheme, which is healthcare textile processing facility certification, which is known as a CAHO-HEALTEXPROF schemes. So these schemes aims at providing optimum performance level in the processing of the multiple use healthcare textiles. So it is not used for the single use. It should be multiple use healthcare textiles, and to provide mandatory requirements for the processing facilities that will help the various level of managerial material managers, laundry managers, then central service engineers, other healthcare professionals. So that will help and implement effective quality assurance systems for the processing of the multiple use healthcare textiles. So we have already, after this scheme was launched, both the schemes were launched. So we have already approved 4 certification agencies for the first scheme, that is biomedical equipment maintenance schemes, and 2 already approved for the CAHO-HEALTEXPROF schemes, 2 CBs. So these 2 CBs and the 4 CBs for the biomedical equipment maintenance, so they will be certifying the clients, I mean to say the hospitals, for the biomedical equipment. It is not only the hospital, but nursing home, clinics, so anywhere where the equipments are being used. So we have already defined the criteria based on the number of equipments, type of equipments, the certification equipment maintenance certificate will be given. So in detail, Karthik ji will be going through that in next PPTs. So this criteria is very clear: what to do, what not to do by the hospitals or the laundries. All these has been very clearly mentioned. This one advantage everybody knows from the general ISO standards and the scheme is that scheme is more specific, and is the owner of the scheme monitors how the scheme can improve and can be implemented correctly without any bias. So that is the importance of the scheme as compared to the any management system standards, which is generally very generic standards. Whether we talk about 9000, 13485, they are generic standards. But the schemes are very specific and very means handy to be used. So very clearly mention what competence is required at laundry operators level, the technician level, the QA person level, and similarly for the biomedical equipment engineers who are going to maintain the biomedical equipment maintenance, means equipments in the hospitals or the nursing homes. So so far we have already 4 + 2, 6 certification bodies already provisionally approved, and clients are also coming up for getting certified through the certification bodies, and we are again planning for the interaction with the manufacturer, I mean, this is hospitals. We have already done a few programs, and this is one of the program in the as we have planned. So that is all about overview of the certification schemes on the biomedical equipment maintenance and the Health Pro textile certification schemes. Thank you.
So thank you, sir. Thank you for giving the overview of both the schemes. So now our next speaker is Mr. Anil Jauhri, sir. So co-chair of steering committee of BME scheme as well as CAHO-HEALTEXPROF scheme. And there is no need for the introduction because he is having a vast experience, overall 44 years of quality assurance experience with industry and national and international accreditation and certification system. He was the ex-CEO NABCB, and he is a member of steering committee of Global Carbon Council, and is also a member of Yoga Certification Board, and he is a chairman in steering committee Good Clinical Practice Professional Certification Scheme, and he's also a member of APO Technical Working Group on Accreditation. He is also IAF Evaluator, formerly APAC Lead Peer Evaluator, and occasional UAF Lead Assessor, and formerly NABCB Lead Assessor also. So over to you, sir. So he will be speaking about the importance of the BME scheme as well as HEALTEXPRO scheme. So over to you, Anil, sir.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much, Karthik, and thanks, Jena, for introducing the two schemes that are the focus today in this program. As an individual outside healthcare domain, for me, healthcare simply means that I should get a good doctor and good treatment, and I'm sure that's true of all of us. What goes behind, we are not so bothered. But when you look at the entire chain, you realize that there is a lot more that goes behind a good doctor, a good hospital, and good treatment in terms of both products and services. Globally, we know that there is a codified now, it is codified in WTO agreements that any product or any service which has health or safety implications should be under regulation. Regulation means that standards have to be enforced by law. It might surprise the gathering here, but because it's fashionable in India to say we are over-regulated, but it's a fact that as far as technical regulations are concerned or service regulations are concerned, which means technical product or service requirements, we are hugely under-regulated. In fact, assuming that the entire audience is coming from the healthcare industry, that is hospitals, you would be surprised that when COVID hit us, none of the products which was important in COVID, the PPEs, the ventilators, the pulse oximeters, the oxygen concentrators, none of them was regulated as in 2020. And there was no assurance of quality, what quality you might be getting in the market. And for that reason, many hospitals probably were prescribing or looking for either US FDA approval or CE marking because there was no assurance within the country. Fortunately, medical devices around the same time were being brought into regulation in a phased manner. And as of 1st October 2023, which is only a month ago, all kinds of medical devices are supposed to be fully regulated. Now, when you are in hospitals, there are a whole lot of services and products which are, are useful to you. So now you realize that drugs, of course, that drugs were regulated. Drugs and Cosmetics Act is of 1940. So they have been regulated for all these years. Although the quality of regulation, one could wonder how good is the quality of regulation given the recent mishaps which have taken place in foreign countries and the reports which are coming about risk-based inspections, and a large number of drug units are being questioned. They are being issued show cause notices. They are being issued stop production instructions. Their licenses are being cancelled. So that's also a concern how good our regulatory regime has been. But the fact is that drugs and medical devices now are regulated. As far as the service is concerned, hospitals ought to be regulated. You would recognize that. Government recognized that, brought in a Clinical Establishment Act in 2010. But the problem with healthcare is that it's a state subject also. It's a concurrent subject. The states have to adopt it. And to my knowledge, 12 states have adopted the Clinical Establishment Act till now. And I think all union territories other than Delhi, all union territories have adopted. Once you adopt Clinical Establishment Act, under that minimum standards are being set, which is also taking time. So minimum standards for medical laboratories are available. You go to there is a Clinical Establishment Act website. You go there and you can see the minimum standards for laboratories. Minimum standards for hospitals were in draft stage for a long time, were finalized in a meeting which I happened to attend in some other capacity in March of this year. I'm not sure whether they have been notified or not. I have to check the website to see whether they have been notified, but they were finalized by the National Council. Now, ideally, one would think that the whole chain of healthcare services should be totally regulated, but you realize how difficult it is. Even in healthcare, the main healthcare service provider, which is the hospital, is not regulated as of today in most states, if only 12 states have adopted. So you can imagine how difficult it would be. In any case, one can't regulate everything. And that is where the role of voluntary certifications comes in. Voluntary standards and voluntary certifications. Of course, globally, we know that even in regulated sectors like food, there are voluntary standards and voluntary certifications because the buyers are demanding it. So regulation is what country demands, the government demands, and buyer demands something more than what the regulation prescribes. So there is globally there are our whole food industry faces number of voluntary, even private standards and certifications. Our textile industry faces whole lot of private and voluntary standards and certifications, despite regulations being in place. So there is no guarantee that if you are a regulated entity or a regulated product, you would not face demand. Even pharma industry faces demand for ISO 9001 kind of certifications. So voluntary certification, all I'm trying to say is that voluntary certifications have a place in the society and a permanent place. It's not a temporary place. It's not that voluntary certification will go away if the product is regulated. We have seen, as I said, products are regulated, services are regulated. Still there are, because I believe that regulation will be to what I would call minimum standard, that this must be ensured, minimum safety, minimum infrastructure, etc. But when it comes to excellence, that will not be through regulation. That will be through voluntary effort. Somebody exceeds those standards, goes beyond those standards, maintains higher and higher standards, raises the bar. And that would happen in case of, all services and products, that voluntary standards and certifications will still continue to play a role, even if the sector is regulated. Now, in healthcare, we did think of, I think at some stage, that there are certain gaps, thanks to Dr. Sharma, the chief of AMTZ, who took this initiative, because we need some organization to come forward and be an owner, what is called a scheme owner. And running a scheme is not an easy task, as I myself discovered. I was a scheme owner in QCI. I created schemes, and I know how hard it was to, get them going, get them accepted, make them successful. So it's a hard task. My compliments to Dr. Sharma, and I'm sure Karthik or Jena can convey those, and to the team in AMTZ, which is working on these schemes. I sympathize with them because it's a hard task, but this is part of, that hard task that we are getting across to the healthcare community and trying to tell them. And these two areas were, one was of biomedical equipment. Once medical devices and medical equipment are regulated, you get a good product, hopefully now. How about maintaining it? We know how important maintenance is. And therefore, thinking of a scheme for certifying biomedical equipment maintenance providers, and that could be your own in the hospital itself. This would help hospitals procure good services, because many of the biomedical equipment maintenance organizations may be third-party organizations. Unless you are a big hospital and you decide you maintain your own equipment and you have a maintenance cell, full cell within, you could get certified, certainly. But many smaller people would certainly rely on outsiders, and therefore there's scope for third-party kind of biomedical equipment maintenance people. As far as processing of healthcare textiles is concerned, multi-use textiles, I think the fillip came from the fact that when COVID struck and PPEs became such a highly used item, it led to an immediate problem of waste produced by single-use PPEs. PPEs were being used and discarded, and where do they go? And in fact, I remember I was part of a governmental committee, and I remember that Secretary Health wrote to Secretary Environment that huge waste is being generated and this needs to be tackled, and the Environment Ministry should do something about that. So we realized at that point of time that single use may have its advantages. I'm sure, I think you doctors, if there are any in this gathering, they know better. They prefer, for the reason of their own safety, they prefer single use. But multi-use PPEs would be something that would have to come in if we are talking of sustainability. These days, we are talking so much about sustainability and doing something sustainable, etc. That multi-use would be one way of having that sustainability come in. And the moment the multi-use comes in, the question arises, and I'm not surprised that the fillip for this scheme came from a manufacturer who is unfortunately not here, Dr. Sanjeev, where the manufacturer would have realized that if I make a multi-use PPE, once it has been sold, it is out of my hand. Now it's in the hand of the owner of that PPE, and how he uses it and how he washes it or gets it washed so that it remains effective. And therefore, the need for having a scheme or having a standard for the what we initially called hospital laundries, but we know that all hospitals do not have laundries, and the laundries can be outside. There can be, again, independent laundries like biomedical equipment maintenance people, and those laundries need certain precautions to be observed and certain practices to be followed to make sure that multi-use textiles, especially PPEs, remain effective. They don't get contaminated, they don't get infected, etc. So the task of preparing a standard on this started primarily by Dr. Sanjeev Ralhan, and I have to acknowledge his contribution and that of Mr. Vivek Kulkarni, who is here right now. We brought him in as the laundry expert because Sanjeev was a manufacturer, but not a laundry expert. And the two of them put together produced the first draft. And the first draft was so interesting that I remember a year and a half ago, I did, on behalf of International Finance Corporation, I did a roundtable. I think it was July of 2022, where ISO Technical Committee Chair of Healthcare, there's a TC 304 on healthcare management. The chair and the secretary were there, and they were very interested, and they are still interested, that they would like to make an international standard. And I told them that while we will provide you the right input, we'll have a draft, we'll provide you the input so that you can make an international standard. We'll provide you experience of that standard also. When you, because international standard means it will take 2 to 3 years. So you can imagine they will start in 2023, it will be not before 2026 that the standard would come. And hopefully we would have experience and we would be able to contribute to that international standard. That's what India should be doing, actually, taking the lead. So I'm delighted. So these are areas, as I said, they will still remain, not everything will be regulated. They are crucial to the provision of the service. A good medical equipment, well-maintained medical equipment is crucial to diagnosis, as Jena has said. A good hospital laundry will be crucial to use of even hospital textiles would cover more than PPEs, any healthcare textile which is used in hospitals. And despite the fact that they are the textiles itself will be regulated, you know that PPEs are regulated. We know now, I think there is a draft order out for healthcare, what is called healthcare textiles, outside PPEs, because PPEs are regulated under as medical devices, but there are other textiles which are not medical devices. They will be regulated in the BIS Act. So there is a draft order out. So the hospitals need to know all these, not only the regulations, they need to know the voluntary standards, they need to adopt good practices. You people are well aware of NABH standards, which were created way back in 2005 by the organization, which was a sister organization of where I was, NABCB, and Jena was also there. And in fact, these practices will support even that when you talk about infection control, etc., and good treatment. These kind of voluntary certification schemes will support those accreditations also, NABH accreditation or QAI accreditation. In fact, if I was in NABH, I was in QAI, the two accreditation bodies, I would see these as evidences of good practices adopted by the hospitals. And, part of my criteria could be satisfied by having these kind of certification. So, so as I said, now the hard task has started. The development of scheme is the easier task. I am co-chair of the steering committee, as you were told. Development of a scheme is easier task, having done maybe 15 plus schemes now for me. The challenges in making them acceptable in the market, getting them off the ground. I'm glad to hear that there are 4 certification bodies approved. All 4 are for both these or one of these. How is that breakup? I hope you will provide the breakup during the program.
Yes, sir. We will provide.
Yeah, and they should know the name. They should know the names. So that's where they will go. Another thing which we need to do perhaps in future going forward is also to train some consultants, because hospitals will need hospitals or laundries or biomedical equipment organizations, they'll need consultants. So let's get together with the consultants organization
Yes.
and organize a program for them also. So hopefully this will improve the healthcare services in the country. Hopefully we will have leadership as far as laundry or the processing of textiles scheme is concerned, that we would have done it here, and internationally there will be standard one day which will acknowledge that India took the lead. So I'm hoping that you all will benefit from this. Many of you who are coming from hospitals, we assume that since CAHO is the organizer, all of you are from hospitals, and all of you will go back either with a decision that you will apply it within your organizations if you are having a laundry, if you are maintaining your own equipment, or more importantly, more likely case that you would outsource this work. You are already outsourcing, but you would prescribe that the laundry or the biomedical equipment supplier has biomedical maintenance supplier, sorry, not the equipment supplier, the maintenance organization which you are using has this certification. And the one good way of doing that is, you give time. It doesn't happen automatically. So if you let your intent be known to your vendors that, okay, 6 months from today or for 1 year from today, I will not accept you unless you have this certification. That gives enough time. So it will not happen overnight. It's a good way of starting, that you go back and prescribe, make the intent known, let it be known, take a decision, let it be known to your suppliers that 1 year down the line from today, you will not accept any biomedical maintenance equipment organization or a laundry which does not have this kind of certification and implement these kind of standards. That will be a good start. And that's the way to go when we come up with new things. So with these remarks, I would like to close here. Thank AMTZ again for inviting me, and CAHO as well as joint hosts of this program. And I wish you a very productive session. Next couple of hours, you will get to know about the schemes, and hopefully you will go back with an intent that these schemes are good for healthcare industry and need to be implemented. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for giving the importance of the voluntary scheme. So we will move to the next part. So next is technical criteria for the BME scheme and its implementation. So I myself will be taking it. So I'll share my screen so that there's a small PP. So this is the technical inputs for the BME scheme and its implementation part. So here we will be seeing what is the how to implement the BME scheme and what are the requirements as an organization. So this organization means here the organization is hospital or AMC CMC provider or a clinic or maybe what is a original equipment manufacturer. So anyone can go for this scheme, that is biomedical equipment maintenance certification scheme. So the technical part we will be seeing in this session. So first, again, both the speakers have said that it is a voluntary scheme. There is no mandatory requirement that you have to do it. It's a voluntary scheme for biomedical equipment maintenance, and we can proudly say that this is the world's first scheme which focus on the biomedical equipment maintenance based on the ISO 17065 product certification standard. And the scheme purpose is to determine the efficacy of maintenance of medical equipment's function after installation, servicing, and repair. So once you install the equipment and if you do some repairing or maybe PPM you are doing it, we don't know whether the equipment is in good condition or not. So this scheme is all about making sure that the equipment is in good condition. So when we say good condition means it's safe to use and the end user, whoever using, that is doctors, nurse, or anyone who's touching the equipment also won't have any problem. So that is what we say good condition. So always the patient safety and the person is using the equipment, that person also should be safe. So that is why we come up with this scheme. And if you see in the global market, as per the WHO, 70 to 80 percentage of the equipments are not in a working condition. So it will be either works or maybe it will be always having more downtime. So in that case, the scheme will be making sure that the equipments are in a perfect condition and there will be less breakdowns, that is downtime. That is the main focus. if you are implementing this BMA scheme, that will be the benefit for you. So this is a voluntary scheme which can be implemented by the hospital through the biomedical equipment maintenance department. So I can see a lot of hospital people have joined for this webinar. So you can take up the scheme and try to implement in your organization, because this scheme is talking about the best practices which is adopted in the global market. So as I said, ISO 17065, it's a product certification. So under product certification, we have three things, that is product, process, service. So the scheme is based on the process, maintenance process. So how you are doing the maintenance activity in your hospital. So if you are following some steps, whether those steps are the best practices, that is what the question you have to ask. If you are following the best practices, then you can expect more output from the equipment that you have installed, and there will be less downtime. Critical care equipment won't be having any issues, and otherwise you will find that here and there some equipments are not working. So even if you talk about the Indian market, again the figure is 50 to 60% of the equipments are not in a working condition. So this is as per 2018 statement. So this scenario, if you want to reduce it, then we have to implement some systems which will take care this problem. So that is this scheme is one of the example. So maintenance by the original equipment manufacturer, then third party maintenance provider, AMC CMC provider. So anyone who is doing the AMC CMC activity, they can check it whether their process is in following the best practices. So these are the people who can implement the scheme. And the scheme won't be covering a few things, that is implantable medical devices, single use or disposable medical devices, then software based medical device category. So these three categories are not part of the scheme. So if you are using the scheme, so we won't be able to apply for these three categories. Other than these three category, all other categories are applicable for the scheme. So that other category, which when I say it, this is what. So main technical areas. So this is as per the International Accreditation Forum MD9 document, mandatory document 9. So that is non-active medical devices, then active medical device, non-implantable, then IVD instruments, then sterilization method for medical devices. So these are the four main technical areas that are part of the scheme. And whereas the scheme is not applicable, in the previous slide I said implantable medical devices, single use or disposable medical devices, then the software based medical device category are not applicable. So now how the scheme is going through. Now in the hospital, if you take, let's say the example is hospital. So in 100-bed hospitals, you will have more than 1,000 equipments will be there. All the equipments. When I talk about the equipment, means it can be your surgical knife, that is all biomedical equipment only. So BP apparatus, so sphygmomanometer, so all are coming into the biomedical equipment category, that is medical devices. So when you take an hospital, you will be having more than 1,000 equipments will be there. Now this 1,000 equipments you have to map to any of these four category. So which are not applicable, which I said in the previous slide. So that is the first step. Okay, so the medical equipment maintenance process for the scheme starts with, you have to choose where your equipment falls. That is whether it is falling on the first category, that is non-active medical device, or second is your active medical device, non-implantable, then IVD instruments, then fourth one is sterilization method for medical device. Then once you know where it falls, now we have to understand whether the medical equipment is powered. So when I say medical equipment is powered, that is whether it is using the power supply source or not. If it is using the power supply, then we have to perform the electrical safety test. Why? Because there is a chance for getting shocks for the patient if the equipment is not properly maintained. So that is why we have to perform the electrical safety testing. So again, there are different standards which are being said in the market. That is IEC 60601-1 standard, then IEC 62353 standard. So usually when you are once the equipment is installed in the hospital, we never go with the IEC 60601-1 standard, because that is used by the manufacturer people. And also in the hospital, what we can do is that when you get equipment, let's say that you have bought a patient monitoring system. So first time when you're buying the patient monitoring system and it is going to be installed, you can tell the manufacturer to perform the IEC 6001-1 test. So that is, you can put as an acceptance criteria. It's not like with that result you will go with it. It's an acceptance criteria test when you are accepting an equipment in the hospital. Once the equipment is accepted, now you are using the equipment. It may you will be doing PPM, plant preventive maintenance, or you may do some servicing. So if you're doing it, then you have to follow the IEC 62353 standard. It defines the basic requirements of the electrical safety testing. Now you may have doubt why it is IEC 62353. Why? Because these IEC 6001-1 testing, if you do it even in the regular PPM checks, the problem is that the equipment's lifetime will be reduced. The manufacturer will say that 5 years is the lifetime of this equipment. In that case, when you are doing regularly doing it, whenever you are doing the PPM, plant preventive maintenance, and you are doing the IEC 6001-1 test using the fluke devices or Regal electrical safety analyzer, the problem is that the equipment's lifetime will reduce. So that is why it is always the best thing is that you once the equipment is inside the hospital or once you are using it, you use the IEC 62353 testing standard, so that once you test it, you will know what is the leakage current, enclosure leakage current, patient leakage current, all those factors you will be checking it, and you are seeing whether all are in the safe limit or not. If it is so, then you will perform the nesting. So nesting is that suppose if the equipment is not powered, then it will also go to the checklist part. So here it is written perform maintenance as per the checklist for the medical equipment. So here the checklist are two checklists are there. One is common checklist for the category. So here category means what is the four main category, that is non-active medical device, active medical device, non-implantable, IVD, then sterilization method for medical device. That is what we are calling category. Then one more checklist is there, that is for scheme product category. I'll tell you what is in the scheme product category. For the scheme, we have almost 36 scheme product category is there. Now, to tell you what is the scheme product category, I'll take a small example. So once you pass these two checklists, if everything for the equipment as per the checklist it is fine, then it is in good condition. This is where we have defined the minimum requirements. Maybe your hospital can put more inputs. I'll show you with an example what is this checklist all. So that this is the main process involved. So now let's talk about more about the scheme product category with an example. So here I am taken the second category, that is active medical devices, non-implantable. So this is the category. So under this category, I do have subcategory, that is we will call in the scheme it as technical areas or subcategory, which are included as follows: general active medical devices, devices for imaging, and I've circled one thing is monitoring devices. That is for taking this example point. So here I am just taking monitoring devices. So subcategory I am taking is monitoring devices. Under this monitoring devices, so which we call as the scheme product category. So for monitoring devices, the scheme product category is of two types, that is monitoring devices of non-vital physiological parameters. Then second one is monitoring devices of vital physiological parameters, which is very common. That is your patient monitoring system, multi-para monitoring system. It is there in the OT room, it is there in the IC room, everywhere it is there. So this is what the scheme product category. So each a category, that is your main technical area, will have the subcategory, and each subcategory will have scheme product category. So here I have taken the category is active medical device, non-implantable, and under that the subcategory which I have taken is monitoring devices. Under the monitoring devices, I do have scheme product category, which is two are there. So one is for monitoring the non-vital physiological parameters. One other is monitoring devices of vital physiological parameters. Now I'm taking the second part, that is monitoring devices of vital physiological parameters. For example, patient monitoring system. So now as per my flowchart, I've said there are two checklist is there. One is common, or you can sometimes people will say general checklist, and another is the scheme product category checklist or checkpoint. So now first see common or the general checklist. So this is the checklist for the active medical device non-implantable. That is the general checklist. So you can see that various points are written. So first point, if you see chassis, that is verify physical integrity, cleanliness, and condition. That is the outer covering, the casing, everything is closed properly, or is there any broken pieces, and the cleaning part, how it is maintained. So that part you are checking it. And here, if you see the next column, you can see A stands for acceptable, and capital N, small a stands for not acceptable, and capital NA means not applicable, and you can write the remarks. So in this way we are checking each point. So this is the general checklist. So general checklist, we will have almost 23 points are there, plus one more thing, that is all tests shall conform to the IEC 62353 standard, which defines the requirements of the medical, that is the electrical safety testing part. That is the ME means medical electrical equipment. Okay, ME means medical electrical equipment, recurrent test, and test after repair of medical electrical equipment. So this has to confirm, and there are certain places you can see that there is a star symbol is put. For example, the point number 17, calibrate the electrical components. So whenever we do say calibrate, it is not in our hand. We have to follow what manufacturer says, which all electrical component that manufacturer says to calibrate, only you have to calibrate it. If you do other than whatever the manufacturer says, then the equipment working on that part will be getting disturbed. So it is always better. So whatever the star symbol is showing, it is saying that as per the manufacturer specification. So calibrate electrical components as per the manufacturer specification. That is what the star symbol. So there are certain points we have to refer the service manual of the manufacturer, what he or she, what the manufacturer has defined it. So that you have to follow it. Now this is a general checklist. Now we have, I said you do have one more checklist, that is scheme category checklist. So here the example I am taken is the subcategory is monitoring devices. Under monitoring devices, you do have two scheme product category. That is, one is for non-vital physiological parameters, another is for vital physiological parameters. So which I am talking now is vital physiological parameters. So this is the scheme product category checklist, monitoring devices of vital physiological parameters. Under that, you can see there are points. For example, the first point, if you take, check all the leads and the cables, ensure that the cables are not twisted. So it is the cable, how you maintain the cables. So if you take a patient monitoring system, there are more than 5 cables are associated. ECG one, for monitoring ECG waveform is one cable is there, SpO2, another cable is there, temperature, another cable is there, NIBP, non-invasive blood pressure. You will have a cuff with a tube that is connected. Then you respiration rate won't be having a separate cable. It is from the either from the ECG cable, or it can be from the temperature probe. Then you have the EtCO2, that is end-tidal carbon dioxide. We'll have a cable. So we are making sure that all the cables are in a good condition. So usually, for example, if you take the ECG cable, you can easily test it with the multimeter in the continuity mode and check what is the value that is observed. Just checking the continuity point alone, it's not enough. Check what is the resistance that is shown. It should be well within 1 norm, less than 1 norm. If your multimeter is a good multimeter, again, multimeter is having also its own error values there. So if you're buying a multimeter with 1,000 rupees, that range, then obviously the value will be less than 1 norm. That is the surety we can think about it. So yeah, just first point only I'm just talking. So this all belongs to the first point. So if it is all fine, then you can say acceptable, or if it is not acceptable, write some remarks, what is the problem, so that it is can be taken care. So here we are trying to make sure that before any failure comes, you can capture the failure. So usually most of your complete failure, then your what is it, what I say, the catastrophic, except the catastrophic failure. So catastrophic means all of a sudden the equipment may get failed. That is happens because of a component getting damaged, maybe a capacitor getting short circuited or resistor getting open. So that, except that, all kinds of failure we can capture in advance if you're following this checklist part. So in this, the scheme product category checklist, for the monitoring devices for vital physiological parameters, we do have how many points? 14 points are there. So you have to make sure that 14 points you have to check it, and if it is everything is fine, the equipment is maintained in a good condition. So coming back to that same flow chart, so where I was talking, so perform the maintenance as per the checklist for the medical equipment. So in the scheme, we have defined a common checklist for each category. That is non-active medical device, common checklist is there. Active medical device, non-implantable, another checklist is there, common. Then IVD instruments, another checklist, common. That is sterilization method for medical device, common checklist is there. So that plus then each scheme product category, there is a checklist, except the non-active medical device, the scheme product category, there is no checklist. That only one checklist is there. That is common checklist is only defined in the scheme, and the documents are all available publicly, and you can go and check it, and you can implement it this in your hospital, and you can also get certified, which I, in the coming slide, I'll tell you how to get it all those done. So this is the entire thing, the concept of the checklist, which I again written it. So each category will have a general checklist, and each category is subdivided into subcategory, and each subcategory is divided into scheme product category. So each scheme product category, I do have a scheme product category checklist. So there are almost, we have the 36 scheme product categories there. So this is the concept of the checklist, and how it is happening, I'll show you with an example. That is what I've shown, and this is the web page where you can see the documents related to the BME scheme. So if you click on it, so you will be able to go to that website. So I'll just show you, so that web page, so that, yeah, so you can see the web page. Hello, are you able to see the web page?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, so thank you. So here you can see the documents which are there. So whatever the checklist, what I'm talking is this one. The first is technical criteria document, where the definition and the scope of the scheme and the important criteria, whatever that is taken for the scheme, everything is defined in the first document. Second document, the checklist part, which I've said it. So if you follow the annexure 4, that is checklist for the medical equipment. So all the things are there. So all the category wise it is there. So this is what I was flowchart, which I was explaining in the PPT, and this is the checklist. So for checklist for the non-active medical devices, then checklist for your active medical devices. So with all the scheme product category is there. So it is a vast checklist, so you can go through it and implement it. So minimum points we have covered it. So again, I say always you can put more points. If you put more points, it will be good for the equipment lifetime, and the condition of the equipment will be taken care also in a well good manner. So this is the third checklist for the IVD. Then you do have the checklist for the sterilization method for medical devices. So this is publicly available, this document, so you can go through it. So coming back to the presentation, so here the document, you can get it from this web page. Now apart from the document, now this is the document part. Now we have approved 4 certification body. So here in the web page, so these are the provisionally approved certification bodies for the BME scheme. That is, one is Astra Service Private Limited. So if you click on to that page, you can get the contact details, their information. You can go to their website and do apply it, or you can call it them, and they will forward you the application form, and you have to fill the application form, and they will ask more details, whether you are doing a planned preventive maintenance, and whether you are adopting some checklist. So checklist, you have to at least address whatever the points that is mentioned in the annexure for the technical criteria document. Then another certification body that is provisionally approved is Sustainable Stewardship Private Limited. Then we do have Assure Quality Management Certification Service Private Limited. Then Arenia Management Service Private Limited. And now one more is we have added, that is Kalam Certification Services, which will be updated by Monday. It will be appearing because they are also provisionally approved. So this is the overall BME scheme. It's technical inputs and the implementation part. And if you are interested for it, you can contact this any of the 4 certification body and get touch with them, and you can process this scheme in your facility. Guest speaker. So unfortunately, Dr. Sanjeev Rellan is not able to attend this webinar. So instead of Dr. Sanjeev Rellan, Mr. Vivek Kulkarni sir will be talking about both the topic, that is technical criteria for HEALTEXPROF scheme and the outlook on the practical implementation of HEALTEXPROF scheme. So let me give you an idea the speaker profile. So he is really having a vast experience, more than 37 years of experience in this area, that is specialized in high-tech industry and institutional laundry services. And he is having BTech and MTech in textiles from IIT Delhi. So headed laundries in premium 5-star hotel chains in India, Dubai, USA. Headed operations in leading high-quality hospital laundry catering to the premium hospital chains. Background in specialty chemicals for cleaning, sanitation in laundries, housekeeping, and kitchens. Technical and R&D Director, Eco Lab India. So over to you, Vivek sir. So I'll share you a PPT.
Yeah, thanks. So good afternoon and greetings to all. And hearty welcome to all the participants. And thanks for joining in this scheme. And in the long run, as Mr. Anil Jauhri had said, we will see our country taking the lead. So you're all, in fact, heartily welcome to participate in that noble effort. So we all look to people like you, your cooperative efforts. It's going to be a collaborative effort. It's going to be a team effort, that the international standard and the Indian standard sees the light of day. So we have that long range goal to which we look to your active participation and cooperation. Now, thanks, Mr. Karthik, for the rich introduction that you gave. Thanks for your kind words. And to Mr. Jauhri also, who also made a reference to me and Dr. Sanjeev Rellan in his address. Now, coming to the topic, I'm sure everyone has gone through the documents.
No, sorry,
So if
give an idea.
Karthik ji, I think I trust the document had been circulated to everyone, right? So they all must have gone through it, the contents, I think.
No, sir. Actually, there are people who have gone through it. There are people who are not going through
it. Okay, it's okay. But now you see, the prime importance is everyone, right from the beginning, all the speakers involved, they have adequately shared, and all of us are quite convinced about the importance of sanitation and hygiene, disinfection, prevention of secondary infection as well as cross-contamination. Because the CAHO's, the anthem, as well as Mr. Vijay Agarwal's address also emphasizes very strongly patient safety. So ultimately, not only the patient safety, but safety of the entire humankind who is involved in the hospital operation, whether it's the ward boys or the nurses or the doctors or the surgeons, everyone involved in health, ensuring and maintaining, imparting of health care, high quality health care. So all round overall safety. So I think all these slides, the contents are, I think, quite self-explanatory. Important to ensure that multiple use healthcare textiles, including gowns, scrubs, it involves a full gamut of hospital textiles. You must have seen clothing, bed sheets, pillow covers, etc. These are non-apparel items, and there are wearable items, apparel items. For example, gowns, patient gowns, lab coats, patient dresses, etc. and of course the PPE also. They are appropriately cleaned and disinfected to prevent the spread of infections. I think this is absolutely self-explanatory and understandable. To minimize or ideally eliminate completely the risk of infection, healthcare facilities shall implement strict protocols for the laundering of healthcare workers' garments, not only workers' garments, but the patient garments also, and the non-apparel wears textiles also, not just garments, but the entire as a spectrum of hospital textiles. And the protocol should include guidelines for proper handling, washing of the garments, requirements for the frequency of laundering, longevity of textiles, and appropriate cleaning agents, which generally are composed of various types of high-tech specialty performance chemicals. And of healthcare facilities and auditing process. This is very, very regulation in shop floor, and that healthcare textiles are being properly cleaned and disinfected. Next slide, please. Karthik, can we have it? Okay. I think it's got proper placement is not adequate, I believe.
It is more to the next slide, sir. It is the next slide. Introduction to
yeah,
the
but
scheme.
I think the okay. Introduction to the scheme. Okay. I think my laptop screen was that. Voluntary scheme. Everyone has adequately stressed this is a voluntary scheme. In times to come, we do expect that it will become mandatory, because if we face facts in a sort of, candidly, something that is voluntary may or may not be implemented. Now, whether it is actually beneficial for humankind in general, it's a debatable issue, but it's better that in the long run, it is made voluntary. That is what the second aim is. Aim of the scheme is to provide optimum performance levels in processing of multiple use healthcare textiles. And of course, the concepts used are flexible, dynamic. They keep modifying from time to time as technology evolves, as science evolves. This scheme also incorporates all the latest developments, whether it's laundry machinery, chemicals, equipment, all round, textiles. We incorporate all those modifications also. Now, see, I will just stress one sentence on multiple use healthcare textiles, and then we will move on to the next slides. Jauhri ji has very well described that in 2020s, COVID brought about a major change, PPEs, disposable PPEs. But as Jauhri ji has said, there were high-level exchanges at the secretarial level in New Delhi government that this is creating a lot of waste. People are using disposable PPE to control COVID, and they are disposing it off. Now, there are two angles to this. There are two pronged, as they say, effect. One is it is creating waste, a big enough concern. A bigger concern is you are creating waste which is infected with COVID. That is a very, very dangerous situation. I hope I have made myself clear. So eventually thoughts went back to multiple use, reusable textiles, the type which we have been using conventionally, woven or non-woven textiles made of various fabrics and fibers, which can be cleaned using water and other means. And whether we can continue to reuse them without the danger of infection, disseminating infection, that has to be eliminated. So now the emphasis is on multiple use healthcare textiles. Next slide, please. So I hope all this is clear. Medical device industry associations, regulators, accreditation bodies, certification bodies, inspection and auditing bodies, testing labs and agencies, standards bodies, and associations of hospitals. These are very central or crucial in implementing this scheme and spreading it further. Next slide, please. This voluntary scheme can be implemented by these three categories of hospitals. Of course, we will come to this in slightly greater detail in the next presentation, which also I am only presenting. Next slide, please. This scheme does not cover design and construction criteria for equipment used to process multiple use healthcare textiles. I think it's evident. Selection of multiple use healthcare textiles as per the risk associated. What it means is we are not going to exactly cover the material of the textiles, which whether it's cotton or polyester or silk or wool or various types of blends, or it's polymeric textiles like polypropylene, etc. Whatever material the textiles are made of, we have to clean them voluntarily. We have no choice over the construction of the material. And healthcare textiles labeled for single use. Understandable. We have covered this in absolute detail. Multiple use versus single use. So where our focus primarily is multiple use. Yeah, next slide, please. Karthik ji, next slide. Thanks. So the typical laundry flow chart, a good quality institutional and industrial flow chart, laundry flow chart, whether it's used in hotels or hospitals or railways or airlines or pharmaceutical drug manufacturing unit, medicine manufacturing units, this is it. Even at home, we are quite likely to do all these things. Of course, not in such an in-depth manner, but to some extent. First, we sort out all the textiles based on various criteria. No need to go into the depth of all that. Then we carry out the actual laundering. Then we carry out inspection, whether it's been laundered and disinfected simultaneously. God forbid, if there is some rejection, then send it for reprocessing, which might include repair, physical damage, if there are tears, if there are holes, if there is stains, coloration. So send it for repair / rewash. Or ultimately, if one particular textile just cannot be repaired to an extent that it can be reused in a hospital, we have to reject it. And once it is accepted, packing, assembling, and then send it to the CSSC department for sterilization. And then it goes back to the hospital for its next use. Next slide, please. So the in gist, summary, tracking certification scheme is designed to address the following: tracking the number of uses of multiple use healthcare textile products. So how many times it has been washed, how many times it has been put on a patient bed, how many times it has been actually used in an OT. So this tracking is done using various modern technology methods. Then ensuring proper handling and cleaning of soiled and infected linen, the absolute soul or the heart of a laundry, or if this scheme also, and this particular event that we are holding right now. This is of absolute importance. Proper handling, proper cleaning. Sterility. If sterilization services are provided and opted, definitely any laundry will like its textiles to be sterilized. Providing guidelines for safe transportation. Very, very important, because as we will see in some of the next slides, how transportation is involved. Handling of soiled, clean linen, sterilized linen to healthcare textile products. Ensuring efficacy of the product in compliance with product standards at every stage of its use. This is very crucial. Every stage. There are various stages: use, discard, getting infected, etc. So proper efficacy of the product as well as the process, they are of absolutely crucial importance. Sustainability by providing guidelines for alternative use. Sustainability, as Jauhri ji has also stressed in his presentation, and we all know we are currently living in that age where sustainability is of absolute importance. We are sort of, we have to use our energy resources, water, chemicals, soil, air, ozone, and all those, global warming. So we have to prevent all these to ensure that the hospital laundry is sustainable. And safe disposal. Waste is generated, waste is inevitable. However good a process is, it will definitely generate waste. So they have to be disposed as of legislation in a safe manner. Next slide, please. So
Yeah,
some of the, now I think Karthik ji, you can possibly speak on this slide, I think.
Yeah, so this is one of the provisionally approved certification body, that is Sustainable Stewardship Private Limited. That is the contact people names and their phone number, mail ID is provided. So again, you can, this is same, this certification body is also In the BME scheme also, he got the provisional approval. And also one more certification body is the Kalam Certification Services, which will be updated on Monday on the web page, our web page. So I'll show you the web page for you. So
Right.
again, the documents are available in the public. So here, if you go to the scheme, Andhra Pradesh MedTech Zone main web page, in that under scheme, the BME scheme as well as HEALTEXPRO scheme related documents are there. So if you click on it, HEALTEXPRO scheme, you will get the related documents available. So technical document and the annexures for technical document. So now how to implement the practical part, again in the next session, Vivek sir will be talking about it in detail. And this is the provisionally approved certification body for the HEALTEXPRO scheme. So Sustainable Stewardship Private Limited. If you click it, the details will be popping up. So from through this also you can get to know the further details from the certification body. And again, you have to fill the application form. And in the application form, they will be asking for the few details that you have to provide to the certification body, and they will come up with what is the next process all. Okay, so that is the first part. And so now I will move to the next presentation, which also will be taken care by the Vivek sir only. So I'll share you the next PPT.
Okay. And in fact, I hope again I'm audible.
Yes, sir. You are audible only, sir.
Okay. Now, of course, we'll move on to the next presentation with the title. I would sort of, like for the few minutes that we have, I would throw open the discussion to the house. Any questions or any inquiries,
sir,
any feedback, any observations about the first, or we have to do it later on?
Last,
at
sir.
the end of the whole session.
At the end.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so we'll move on straight away directly. Is the audience ready now to move on to the next PPT?
Yes, sir.
We can start. Okay. Now, we have seen the description, in principle description, the theoretical aspects of the HEALTEXPROF professional scheme. Now we come to the practical implementation of the scheme, which we have spoken of in the previous presentation. We can have the next slide, please. Now, the absolutely central, vital, and crucial aspect of the scheme is ensuring total sanitation in the complete operations cycle employed by laundries cleaning hospital textiles. I hope that is clear. Now, this will involve removing existing infection, because hospital processes, especially surgical processes, and of course many other non-surgical processes also. Hospital processes, I mean treatment, illness removal processes, or sickness removal processes, or as we say, medical treatment. They will quite likely involve infection. So we have to remove the infection. Next is, till the existing infection is removed, it will take some time. As we will see in the next slides, point generation to infection removal. This process takes some time. At the previous slide, previous please. Yeah. Prevention of the spread of existing infection, because the existing infection will not get removed immediately as soon as it is generated. It will take some time. So during that time, we have to spread its infection, the spread of the existing infection at various places. I think the implication is quite clear. No need to go into further explanations. Now the next slide, please. Now, quite understandably, this will cover the entire cycle of operations, starting from the point of generation on infection in textiles till the cleaned and disinfected textiles return to the point of reuse for the healthcare establishment. Right? Next slide, please. The key terms are prevention of secondary infection and cross-contamination. Now, I will just, it has not been covered in these slides, but I will verbally give an example, which I always make it a point to sort of mention in all the PPTs or the webinars which I'm generally a part of. Karthik ji must have heard it quite a few times. Jena ji also must have, and Jauhri ji also. Now let's take an example. Of course, we have to prevent this. Just a hypothetical, theoretical example. A person is admitted to a hospital for cardiac surgery. All precautions are taken. The surgeons, heart surgeons, they are absolutely well in the protected. Patient is taken care of. All the surgical instruments, they are properly sanitized and disinfected and sterilized. And the the surgery operation takes place absolutely successfully, and the patient is safe. After that, the patient is discharged from the OT and taken to a ward. And then he is placed on a bed which has a bed sheet which, God forbid, is infected. Now our patient has contracted that infection, and he is to be, the whole cycle of his treatment starts all over again, while he has been cured of the cardiac I would say, affliction that he was suffering from, and for the treatment of which he was admitted to the hospital, and he was successfully treated also. Now he has been treating again for a new infection which has come from the infected textiles. And why? Because the laundering and disinfection process, sanitation process of the textiles was not adequately carried out in the laundry. This apparently happened a couple of times during the COVID period, where the emphasis was on counting numbers. So emphasis was not very strongly laid on the actual processes. Patient comes, patient is treated, patient in, patient out, patient in, patient out. So understandably, of course, it cannot be excused, but still we have to give some human concession and consideration. The establishments and the laundries simply did not have time and the infrastructure and the wherewithal to go in depth into the cleaning and sanitation procedures. So I hope this example clarifies how important it is to take proper care in the laundry to clean and disinfect. So, and which will contribute towards prevention or elimination of secondary infection and cross contamination. Next slide, please. This is very crucial now. So in the previous presentation also, it was briefly covered. So if we go through the 4 categories: location, ownership, operations, and clientele of the laundry. First is in-house, on-premise laundry. In the laundry jargon, it is generally referred to as OPL, on-premise laundry. Ownership rests with the hospital. Operations are also carried out by the hospital. We can understand that the clientele will be exclusively dedicated to the hospital. Most common for obvious reasons, because the owning hospital will not like to subject its own laundry to other infections. For example, hospital A starts outsourcing services for hospital B, and hospital B sends its infected linen. There can always be a probability of clashes between hospital A and B. B will accuse, you did not disinfect our textiles properly. Hospital A will counter it. So we can imagine this sort of a cross-slinging match, and allegations, counter allegations can go on forever. So generally, hospitals cater exclusively to their own textiles, and they, whether it's outsourcing or outsourced, so the source as well as the target, neither of them would like to have this sort of a situation where cross infection can take place from one hospital textiles to another hospital textiles. Second is in-house, on-premise laundry. Ownership rests with the hospital, but the operations are carried out by a third party. So the operations are outsourced. Even in such cases, for understandable reasons, clientele is exclusively dedicated to the hospital. Third is the same criteria continues insofar as location is concerned. In-house, on-premise laundry. Ownership is an external vendor. The hospital only provides the space. They say, okay, you have the space. Now you set up your own laundry, invest your own money, use your own chemicals, pay for electricity, water, chemical, and all the consumables. You just give us back the textiles as per our specifications. We will give you soiled and infected textile. What we get back from you is clean and disinfected textiles as per our requirements, and we pay for you. We pay you for the services that you extend to us. Operations understandably handled by the external vendor. This again, the same story repeats. This also is generally exclusively dedicated to the hospital. Unless there is an agreement between two or more hospitals, okay, we will not indulge in a sort of a cross-linking match. Outside the hospital premises, everything is external. The vendor is external. Operations are handled by the external vendor. Here, quite obviously, to make the business profitable, there are multiple clients. Here, the game starts real one. When there are multiple clients, we can imagine how high the probability of the or the risk of the spread of infection is. So how careful such a laundry has to be, I don't think I need to stress it any further. Everyone, we are all, you people are all sort of medicos, you know it better than I do, how crucial it is that such a laundry has to perform extremely carefully. Next slide, please. So it can be appreciated that while clauses mentioned in slides number 2 and 3, 4 are valid for all types of hospital laundries, they hold especial importance for laundries described in serial number 4 in the table. Simply because such laundries process textiles from multiple hospitals. Next slide, please. Now the documents. Karthik ji just said that many of the audience here has gone through the document. Now he has been kind enough to share the links where the people who have not been able to read the document so far, where they can access it and how they can read it. So I will earnestly request everyone present here in this gathering, kindly do go through the document in depth. And of course, we will invite your feedback, expert feedback. You are medical professionals. Your feedback will hold a lot of significance for us. We will enrich the document that way. And that document describes in depth what exactly is to be done. For example, this machine, only this type of machinery has to be employed. Only such chemicals have to be employed. Only such boilers have to be employed. People have to hold this qualification. Managers have to hold this qualification academically, this much of experience, etc. Now, this brief presentation will focus on how to ensure it and that it is actually done, implemented. So the next slide, please. Now, what to do? This is governed by people, machinery, processes, equipment, infrastructure, among others. Examples. Let us take some examples now. As I said, what to do has been extensively described in the document. For example, the document says what is to be done, that there has to be a physical separation and a barrier between the clean and soiled areas in a laundry. It says defines very clearly, a laundry has to have two well demarcated areas separate from one another, clean and soiled areas, and the physical partition has to be there from the ground level right up to the ceiling, so that cross contamination doesn't take place. It has been described in depth how to carry out overall handling of the textiles, including infected textiles. For example, wearing PPE, etc. That infected linen has to be washed only in specific types of high-tech washers, which are called barrier washers. Next slide, please. Now we can see, if we go back to the slide which describes the table, location, ownership, operations, etc. We can all see some of the laundries are in-house, some of them are outside the hospital premises. So whether in-house or outside premises, some degree of transportation is very much required. The surgical ward is maybe on the 10th floor, the laundry may be on the basement or maybe on the ground floor, but it is physically away. So there is movement of infected and soiled textiles from point of generation to the point of cleaning. Now that transport or movement will involve trolleys, sacks, polythenes, or where soil textiles are kept. And if it's outside, then it involves transportation over multiple kilometers, which is done in trucks and lorries. How to transport soiled and infected linen, conditions of time, temperature to be followed scrupulously to ensure proper cleaning and disinfection. This is very important. What is the wash processes? Of course, once you take the infected or soiled textiles and put it in the washing machine, there has to be certain range of chemicals to be used. They have to be used in standard concentrations. Then the treatment has to be carried out for a minimum duration of time, not too much, not too little. A specific temperature has to be followed for all the chemicals to be effective. A specific process and chemicals are effective maximum at specific temperatures. Again, not too high, not too low. So they all have been specified in the document. Very important to ensure proper water quality. One can have the best of equipment, best machinery, very high-tech machinery, very high-tech chemicals, very competent manpower. But if the water being used for cleaning is not of the adequate standards, we can all appreciate as professionals, educated professionals, havoc can be caused by improper water quality. So water quality is a very important subject in any laundry, and laundries generally invest hundreds and thousands of rupees in treatment processes, that is capex as well as opex, running that water purification equipment. Number of washes to be monitored. Dr. Ralan would have thrown more light on this because he, as a medical professional, would have thrown some light. Of course, in future presentations, he will definitely educate all of us about that. After a certain number of uses, a textile may not be effective for the purpose it is intended for. Immediately, it has to be discarded away. This is especially important in case of surgical textiles. For example, if a gown is not able to perform satisfactorily after, say, 50, 60 washes, it has to be discarded. How to dispose of waste? Packets containing infected linen. How are they to be disposed of? Then there has to be, every laundry has to be equipped with safety measures like eye wash stations. God forbid, if there is a chemical spill or splash in the eye, what happens? What to do later on? To prevent such things, there is a very important concept called MSDS. I'm sure doctors must be familiar with the full form, Material Safety Data Sheet. So MSDS, where is it kept? Training has to be imparted to people. How to use an MSDS. All these are what to do. And as I said, they have been adequately covered in the document. Next slide, please. And of course, the MSDS also tells in detail, in case of accidental, undesirable spills or some chemical mishaps, how they are to be handled. The MSDS always lays emphasis on prevention of mishaps due to chemicals, but it also says, in case there is some mishap, how to sort of cure it. Now, just to sort of give some idea, this is the clean area in a hospital laundry. If we go to the far sort of in-depth corner, we can see blue colored glasses. There is a ceiling which is going right from the floor up to the ceiling level. You can see a tube light lit there. So this is how the clean area is separated. Beyond that is the soiled area. And if you see, those who are familiar with the laundry area, there is a blue colored machine, and beyond that there are two small rectangles. They are called, yeah, that's right. That a little bit to the left, please. Those two, no, a little bit, yeah, exactly, perfect. Those two, this thing. You can see two standing machines with round these things. They are the barrier washers, which are crucial to a hospital laundry. Barrier washers ensure that cross-contamination or secondary infection is completely prevented. So this is just to give you a bird's eye view of what a good quality laundry looks like. Next slide, please. Now, with complete all-round assistance from experts from AMTZ, any organization can set up a new laundry which will conform to this particular scheme, in terms of the fundamental requirements in terms of people, machinery, process, equipment, and infrastructure. So similarly, with assistance of experts from this type from AMTZ, any organization can modify an existing laundry. As Jauhri ji and Karthik ji and Agrawal sahab, they have also said, an existing laundry can also be modified and changed so that it conforms to this scheme. Again, in terms of the same fundamental requirement in terms of infrastructure, people, machinery, etc. So how to do it? We will be happy to extend this sort of an assistance. Next slide, please. And of course, the document will give in-depth knowledge of what exactly is to be done. Now, towards fulfillment of these tasks, experts from AMTZ would be readily willing to extend all-round assistance. And it needs to be ensured that after this is done, the very vital thing is, however, okay, we have the best equipment, we have the best chemicals, we have set up a world-class high-tech laundry, and it is now ready for operations. It has been thrown open to service and it has been inaugurated. What comes next is very, very important. As Jauhri ji had said again and again during his address, which is extremely relevant, it is very easy to start with something, but he very rightly pointed out and stressed it is not easy to implement it and keep implementing it on a continuous, sustained basis. I will come to the same point. I could not agree with Jauhri ji more that, and I will come to this sentence now. This is done the day-to-day operations in the complete laundry cycle, not just the laundry, but the complete laundry cycle. And this cycle starts, as we can rightly appreciate, it starts at the point of generation and it ends with the receipt or the transportation of cleaned and disinfected textiles to the healthcare establishment for its next use. Complete laundry cycle conform to HEALTEXPROF scheme on a sustained basis. This word has become very, very sort of popular all over the world these days. Sustained basis and sustainability. Next slide, please. Now, how to ensure it is actually done? A couple of slides ago, I said this is people dependent. How to do? Sorry, what to do is infrastructure and other people dependent, equipment dependent, chemical dependent. It is sort of machinery dependent, process dependent. How to do it is exclusively people dependent. Again, I will refer to Jauhri's presentation. He spoke of a lot of drug manufacturing units. They are either in the danger of losing their licenses being revoked because they are not conforming to standards. So, and who is responsible for that? People. Either people ensure that a process is continuously successful or they are responsible for its failure. And we have to prevent the failure. So people are absolutely crucial here. How to do it? And people play the most crucial role here. The central parameters are strict vigilance, monitoring through supervision. Supervision is absolutely vital here. Important processes to be scrutinized on a continuous basis by trained qualified staff daily. Now, when I say trained qualified staff, obviously they are the laundry supervisors, managers, directors, or the owners, people who are actually operating in the laundry on a day-to-day basis. Of course, managerial staff is important, but the ground level operation staff, the people who are operating the laundry machinery, they are also very, very important in this. Hello?
Hello. Yeah, sir.
Yeah, am I audible? I think there was some disturbance. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, when infected linen is brought inside a laundry, it has to be unpacked in the plastic packs, maybe sacks, transported in laundries, sent to the machines opened, machines loaded, sealed, and the closed, machines locked, and the washing process starts. All this while the ground level people, the floor level people, shop floor people, they have to be adequately protected. They have to wear PPE so that they themselves are protected from the infection and they prevent its further spreading. So, and this, so as I said, all the important processes, unloading, loading, opening the infected sacks, this thing, which again, as I would stress again and again, it has been covered adequately in the document. How to actually do it? This is very important in a corporate environment these days. This is become the norm of the day. Records and checklists to be maintained to ensure due steps are actually taken to ensure implementation of safety measures. I will just give an example. For example, a city, place A, the hospital is situated in place A, laundry is situated in another city, say 80 kilometers from that place. So obviously, a lorry or a truck has to be used. Now, the people inside the laundry, when they see that the entire lorry has been unloaded, then they have to ensure that before the lorry departs with clean and disinfected textiles back to the hospital, it is completely fumigated, sanitized, and disinfected. This is one of the things. So, for example, that's why I said records and checklists to be maintained. This is one of the things. Has the lorry been disinfected? Next, have the sacks which contain disinfected linen, have they been cleaned and disinfected properly? Trolleys made of stainless steel or maybe made of textiles or maybe a mixture of stainless steel and textiles made of fabrics and metal, have all the trolleys which handled soiled, dirty and infected linen after use, have they been disinfected? All these records and checklists have to be mentioned, to be performed on a daily basis. Record and checklist are taken to ensure implementation of safety measures. This has to be done very, very scrupulously. Next slide, please. Hard and soft copies of various records to be maintained scrupulously. There has to be a daily truck disinfection record. October 31st, truck disinfected. November 1st, truck disinfected. Checked by, disinfected by whom? Of course, I need not go into those in-depth sort of elaborate details, but we can imagine, anyone can appreciate, those records had to be maintained very scrupulously and properly kept in, say, maybe files and cabinets. Regular inspection and verification of records. This has to be done by the senior or the top level management in the laundry. CCTV has to be installed. We can always be sure, God forbid, in case there is some sort of a mishap, minor mishap, we can always trace back accountability. We can always see where did this mishap take place, and we can, as they say, RCA, root cause analysis, the 5 W's, where, why, who, etc. We can converge. Okay, this spreading of infection took place here. Next time onwards, we have to be doubly careful that this error occurred because of some sort of I would say, snag in the process at this stage. Maybe the trolley was not disinfected properly. Maybe the sack was not disinfected properly. So to ensure that, CCTV has to be necessarily installed. And of course, as is the case with hard and soft copies of various records, maintained scrupulously. Video footage also has to be inspected periodically by responsible management. Now, no need to emphasize my doing it again and again. We can all see it is all people dependent. People, and people, men dependent. Next slide, please. So how to do it? The crucial point is training and periodic reviews. Well-defined SOPs, standard operating procedures, have to be explained thoroughly to every employee in the laundry before the laundry starts its operations, or before a new employee who has joined afresh, he or she has to be inducted and oriented very thoroughly regarding the SOPs. And this SOP training has to be recurrent. Okay, I know I have undergone this SOP training today. Still, maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 1 month, periodic, this thing, re-examination, retraining has to be done. No one should get away with the excuse, well, I've been trained in the SOPs, I don't need any further training. No, that will not be allowed. Regular SOP training has to be conducted thoroughly on a continuous sustained basis. Ensure that well-trained manpower in adequate numbers is very important, is allocated to each task. For example, I again just saying, maybe a dedicated person is allotted the task of lorry disinfection. So there is accountability. Otherwise, as they say in this thing, everyone thinks that someone else will do it, and eventually no one ends up doing it. As they say, passing on the buck, shouldering responsibilities is very, very important. Manpower needs to conform to the requirements laid down in the document in terms of training, educational qualifications, experience profile, and all that. Regular training to be imparted to the staff as per predefined schedules. This is very important. And hard and soft copies of training records to be maintained and inspected by an authorized person regularly. Well, when was this training session held? Maybe 2nd November. When is the next one due? And then the trained people, whether it's middle management or top management or the worker level people, shop floor people, they should also be asked to undertake examinations, oral examinations like a simple viva voce or written examinations, just to check that they are well to do, they are adequate, they are in touch with the latest modifications or sort of latest editions of the document. Are you aware of this? What is to be done in case you get infected textiles? Will you put it straightway into the washing machine, or will you give it a pre-treatment, etc.? So examination of the trained personnel has to be carried out regularly. As they say, I would say examination only. We can say examination, or I would say appraisals. Appraisals also have to be carried out. Whether a particular employee or a set of employees, they are actually following the procedures, where they are well equipped, where they're well educated about the document. So anything in the document, it should be generally on their fingertips. We'll say, okay, what type of chemicals are used? They should at least have some, okay, this type of chemicals are allowed, this type of chemicals are not allowed. Something of that sort. Next slide, please. Now, as they say, Jauhri ji has also stressed it again. Ultimately, it comes to the mindset of the people. How loyal, how sort of the individual person's integrity. I'm concluding this presentation by this with this slide. The individual integrity has to be ensured. So it is people dependent. We have to inculcate a firm belief in each employee that if they are working for that hospital laundry or anywhere else, they are not just earning their livelihood from that job. They are contributing to a global noble cause. It is a worldwide mission, and it's a social cause to ensure total safety in the full gamut of laundry operations. So patient safety has been stressed, but I would go a step, multiple steps beyond, to ensure total safety, not just patient safety, but doctor safety, surgeon safety, nurse safety, ward boy safety, truck driver safety, laundry operator safety, everyone, all round holistic safety in the entire full gamut of laundry operations. And as I said, towards fulfillment of this, experts from AMTZ and all other allied organizations like AHPI, IMED, PWMAI, all the allied organizations, we would all be readily willing to extend all-round assistance to sort of, disseminate this scheme towards fulfillment of this global noble cause. The last slide, please, to conclude. And announced and surprise audits of the laundry to be conducted by authorized bodies and their findings to be reported to AMTZ. And depending on the findings which are reported to AMTZ to take necessary action after thoroughly examining those reports. These are some of the regulatory steps we have to take, to ensure that things are followed scrupulously. So I think with that, we can come to the conclusion of this, both the presentations. So I end my presentations with thanks to the chair and with thanks to the entire house. Back to you, Mr. Karthik ji. And of course, now open to Karthik ji. You can take over now.
Yeah. So thank you, Vivek sir, for giving the professional implementation as well as the technical criteria for HEALTEXPROF. So once again, I want to make sure that the documents are already available in the web pages. So for BME scheme, if you click on to the BME scheme, you will see the document, the technical criteria document. Suppose if you want to implement on your organization, the first two documents will be useful. Go through it and you can implement it. Whereas in the right side, you can see that provisionally approved certification bodies are there to whom you can contact, and so that you can get certified for the respective scheme. For BME scheme, we have four provisionally approved certification bodies are the BME scheme, that is Astres Service Private Limited, Sustainable Stewardship Private Limited, then Assure Quality Management Certification Service Private Limited, then Aranya Management Service Private Limited, and one more will be shortly will be coming, Kalam Certification Service. And also for the HEALTEXPROF, we have the same way the documents have been aligned, and first two documents are the technical document related. So as Vivek sir was talking about the various requirement of the HEALTEXPROF scheme, the laundry area, how the separation has to adopt. So this is a really well-mannered and document. So the huge 90% of the document, not 100% of the document is a contribution from Dr. Sanjeev sir and Mr. Vivek sir. So both of them have together framed this entire document, the technical document. So it is vastly written, clearly written, and again I can really say one happy note that is one of a global away first kind in globally available, which is based on the ISO 17065 standard. So again, ISO 17065 standard, it's a product certification standard. So under that, three things are the product, process, service. Again, this is also process oriented one. And so this document 126 pages. So we have just covered the main crucial points only, and you can go through this document that is available. So the first two are the technical document. So suppose if you want to implement in your organization, you can go through it. And in the right side, you can see the Sustainable Stewardship Private Limited, that is the provisionally approved certification body for this scheme. And one more will be coming, Kalam Certification Services, which will be updated on Monday in the web page. And the various link also I will be putting in the chat box so that you can go and check it out. So that is as per the four sessions. So now it is open for the questions and discussions. If you have some doubt, we are here, because the forum, whatever that Anil Jauhri sir, Mr. Jena sir, and Vivek sir, these all are the people who have worked for the scheme, and they are the responsible people develop the scheme, and you can directly interact with them and get clear related to the both the schemes. And it is one of the golden opportunity that you can implement the scheme in your organization and get global recognition. So you can be the first in of this kind of usage, so that the end user, the patient, as well as Vivek sir said, the doctors or nurse, whoever using those things, they has to also take care their life, right? So we have to make sure that everyone, the total safety aspects. So it's open for questions. So you can unmute yourself and do ask the questions. We are here to clarify it.
I would like to add here. Yes, Mr. Anil Jauhri sir also mentioned about the implementation part. Yes, we are now working on that to train the consultants, so that consultants will be available on our website. The details you can approach to them. Those will be the trained consultants who can support you implementing the in the hospitals or the laundries for these two schemes. That is one. Second thing I would like to mention here, these schemes, as also I mentioned in my presentation. So these two schemes, which we have developed with the support of multi-stakeholders, including the standards body BIS, including the accreditation body, not only the Indian accreditation body, we have taken into consideration the foreign two accreditation bodies, laboratory, then association of certification body, inspection body globally, regulator, ICMR, means it is a multi-stakeholder, number one. Number two, as I mentioned, this is based on the international standards. So, and also ISO 17065, IAF-MD 25, MD 9. So all these are internationally acceptable standards. So these schemes is accepted globally. So it's not only national or Indian. So it is accepted globally. We have also started endorsing our scheme for the foreign accreditation body, US accreditation body. That in the process we have submitted the application. So our scheme will be endorsed in many countries for accreditation. So it will be accepted globally because of this base is the international standards, and also many accreditation body will be endorsing this scheme for their countries. So I will suggest that each means the facilities, they should start implementing these requirements of biomedical equipment maintenance, and also the health textile processing certification, facility certification schemes. So now the forum is open. Any queries on certification related, technical related, because Mr. Kulkarni sir is already here, and he will be able to answer all these queries technically or certification related. So forum is open to
implementation, practical implementation also. You know?
Yeah.
As I said, open to the house. Queries, feedback, inquiries are heartily welcome.
Yes. Any suggestion to improve the schemes, if you feel like that also?
Exactly. Yeah, because they're all professionals. You know, they are all
Yeah.
involved professionals. They are
Exactly.
heavily they are in depth. They are actually into it. You know,
Right.
they are doctors, so they are into it actually.
So Karthik ji,
So,
are you able to see some hands?
there is one question. What is meteorovigilance?
What is that? Metro.
Meteorovigilance. Just a minute.
No, no. Which presentation was it referring to? Because I had used this word in my this thing.
Because
This is regarding material vigilance.
Material
Yeah.
vigilance.
Yes, yes. Because in our country there is a material vigilance program is going on
Okay,
for
very
all the
good.
medical devices.
Okay, very good. Okay. So this is material vigilance. Okay.
Yes.
So, what you are trying to ask, is it related to this you are asking?
Exactly. The question has to be sort of clarified now. And which reference was it used, this terminology? Were material vigilance?
Because both the schemes are voluntary schemes, so we have not pitched. Yes.
Sir, the material vigilance is a program run by in our country by to report any deficiency or any error
Yes.
or any
Yes.
failure
Yes.
in the medical device
Okay.
to the few designated center in our country.
No, actually, if you see the Indian medical
It's
device
like a
rule,
pharmacovigilance program.
yes, actually, if you see the Indian medical device rule 2017,
Yes, yes, yes.
this reporting to the regulatory authorities, it is a requirement. And if you take ISO 13485 medical device quality management system, one of the clause, it says that if you have any adverse event related to the medical device, you have to report to the regulatory body. So we have a form that is publicly available. That form is available, and all the company people will be incorporated. And in India, I said it is a developing country, so the system is not fully functional, I do say, because some of the people are not aware of it. Such forms do exist it, and if some adverse event have occurred, it is a responsibility of the manufacturer to report it, as well as the end users, such as the doctors, can also report it, even the patient can also report to the regulatory authorities so that they will look on it. But related to the scheme, we have not mentioned it anything that is in connection with this. So the scheme, what we are saying is that both the schemes, if you take it, they are trying to say the best practices which you can adopt it in your organization, so that the patient safety will be taken care and the people who are using the equipment also will be taken care.
There is one question, sir,
Yeah.
regarding the quality of the textile. How a buyer from a hospital or the purchase department can ensure that this textile is, appropriate for infection prevention in a hospital.
You see, no textile material which is available as of today, as we are speaking now, no textile material which is available is per se resistant or preventing to infection. It will definitely is liable to get infected because it is coming into contact with infectious material, which can be various types of body fluids or bacteria, etc. There is a wide variety of infectious material, which is also called OPIM and infected material, other potentially infectious material. Whenever a textile is involved in a typical hospital treatment process, it is quite liable. We cannot say if we purchase textiles made of this material, they will be able to resist infection. No, nothing of that sort is actually existent now. They will sort of be affected by an infection. The key is how to make them free of the infection. Of course, inherently some materials might be slightly more resistant because of their inherent qualities, but the resistance, or as they say, impermeability to infection is not 100%. So this textile criteria, government purchase department, they can say any branded good quality textile material purchased from a good company. Say for example, I'm just being partisan or something. A well reputed organization, for example, Mafatlal Textiles. They are leaders in supplying of bedsheet material. So if we buy good quality textile bedsheet material from a good company like Mafatlal, you can rest ensure that at least you have brought good quality textiles, which can be used for multiple use and which will be subject to cleanliness also.
Sir, regarding this, I would like to refer during COVID time. The government of India has published, the name of the supplier, vendor of good quality, this PPE. So,
But that must have been, was that disposable or was that multiple use?
is very disposable.
So
Multiple use also. During the
okay.
COVID time, because there was a crisis of vendor from whom to purchase, who are certified vendors from the ministry. There was a
Correct.
list was published.
Correct.
So, is there is any such provision from the your society or scheme? These types of list can be published so that those hospitals, especially the smaller hospitals, which are not aware about the quality of the vendor or the uh, regarding the textile, they will be benefited. That is what I can say.
Okay. Karthik ji, Jena ji,
Yes.
any inputs on this?
Right.
Because this is
This
more of a
is
commercial. I
exactly.
can throw some light on the technical aspects of various different fibers, cotton versus polyester versus silk versus wool. That will come later. But the legal and the other admin aspects, I think you people will be able to do it better,
Exactly. So this is already inbuilt in the certification process. What will happen once the certification body is approved by the scheme owner, they start certifying the hospitals for the biomedical equipments or the laundries. So those lists will be available on our website and also on their website also. Anyone can purchase from the I mean to say go for the processing of their textile multi-use textile from there also. So those lists will be available on our website and also link will be provided to the certified vendors or certified
Thank you, sir.
laundries or the hospitals.
Thank you, sir.
this type of interaction again and again we will be doing. It's not the end, it's the starting only. So
Yeah,
in
this is big.
100 month, we are planning to have this sort of sessions for various stakeholders. Like next time we'll be having for the hospitals who are interested for the medical equipment maintenance, and also laundry
Correct.
operators will call them and have interaction with them, and also certification body will be available in the next meeting. So we have a series of interaction meeting to popularize. Many people may not be knowing these schemes are available, and this is a unique scheme, first time in the world. So
Correct.
and our plan is to make it a global and IAF endorsed. So many countries will get benefit out of it. It's not only India. So it will be benefited by many countries from many various places.
If there is no more questions, so we can make sure that we can end the webinar. So first of all, we like to thank CAHO for giving the opportunity for presenting our scheme related thing, that is BME scheme as well as HEALTEXPROF. So thank you, CAHO, for the opportunity. Next, all the speakers who have involved, Mr. Jena sir, Mr. Jauhri sir, Mr. Vivek sir, and also Dr. Sanjay sir was not able to attend it, but he also an integral part of this webinar because his PPT only we are presented. And but last not least, all the audience who have attended this webinar and made this in a good manner. And also, you can always put a mail, drop a mail to us if you have any sort of doubt related to the scheme implementation in your organization. We will be happy to help you out, and also we can touch with the certification body. Certification body, I have already forwarded the web link details in the chat box. You can directly contact with the certification body and you can implement the scheme. I said, as Jena sir said, that it is a globally addressing the standard requirements. So if you implement it, it will be beneficial for your organization as well as the people who are using the equipments or the textile related things. They will be getting that total safety aspects will be covered. So that's it. So thank you all.
Special thanks to Dr. Lalu Joseph Madam and also Dr. Agrawalji for such a wonderful interaction of giving opportunity to work together, and more and more interaction will happen in future to popularize this scheme and get the benefit of out of it for everybody. Thank you. So Vivekji, if you want to say something, please. So
The concluding remarks, no, in fact, that's also my concluding remarks will be, let us all join hands together to propagate and disseminate this scheme everywhere, starting with India, and make sure that India takes the lead.
Yes.
So it's going to be a team collective effort, and we all invite and request total participation from all the people who have sort of gathered in this audience.
Right.
So their participation and cooperation is very important here. So we would really like to sort of see more involvement from the audience which has collected here today in terms of ideas, how they would like to do that. So it's an invitation, it's an open invitation. Consider yourself invited. And as Jena ji has said, Karthik ji has said, Jauhri ji has also said, we are all open to sort of communication. Our communication links are open. Any queries, address and all that, feedback and all that, you're always welcome to share it with any of us, and immediate action will definitely be taken on that. So we are a very open unit, receptible to ideas. And the only aim is we have to ensure total safety, sanitation and hygiene and disinfection. And India should take the lead. We should set the benchmark standards. So towards that, I would request your participation to the fullest extent. And as Jena ji has said, this is just the beginning. So let us have more such interaction and sort of ensure that this scheme is propagated further, far and wide. That is what sort of my concluding remarks will be. So now back to you, Jena ji and Karthik ji, Dr. Agarwal.
Yeah, that's it,
Thank
sir.
you. Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
all.
you, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.